Hey, I just wanted to introduce Eric Marchant. I wanted to take a second to introduce him. You know, Eric Marchant's our VP of Compliance. I've known Eric for years. Eric, and you've heard David tell the story of when he brought Eric Marchant on, and we started to introduce this to our board of directors and everything. And I was with the company also at that time and had the honor of really working quite closely with Eric and really getting to know Eric. You know, Eric has 25 years, is that right, or is it even more than that? So 25 plus years.
On the earth.
On the earth, yeah. In the industry. He knows this industry very well. I mean, he was VP of sales at New Ways. Very large company. He's traveled all over the country, all over the world, representing different companies. And so he understands what it takes to get things done, and he understands in terms of compliance what you can and what you can't do. And that is extremely important, and that's why you guys are here, so that you understand what you can and cannot do with LifeVantage in terms of the business. He's also a lawyer by training. You've heard the story of how he contacted Jason Domingo. So he is well-versed in compliance and what you can and can't do. And so it's my pleasure to turn the time over to Eric Marchant.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks, Ben. Good friend. We've worked together, as he said, very closely together at the beginning of this pro tandem era, we'll call it, into the world of direct selling, MLM. Welcome to compliance. I imagine that some of you, if not many of you, have advertisements you want to run by me, maybe website designs you'd like to run by me, certainly questions you have about why is it that I see something said here and you're telling us we can't say it. I hope we don't run into that too much. There are certain things that I need to cover today, and we'll take the first few minutes doing that. And the reason for it is because effective a year ago, December 1st, 2009, the new FTC guidelines that discussed endorsements and testimonials in advertising came on board. And they sent out an 81-page document for those of us that were interested with the rules of the FTC and with explanations, even examples of why or how to explain, if we can, the principles in the FTC. If you're normal MLM people, have heard more about the FDA than you have the FTC. Unfortunately, we have many regulators that regulate this industry and others. The FDA is one, and we'll get into that at the end. But up front, we need to discuss the FTC and these new guidelines. As I mentioned, they became effective December 1st a year ago. And the reason they're significant to you is because I haven't done it yet. Tomorrow morning, at the beginning, we're going to have download something off of the internet that shows the power of the individual on the internet, the power of the individual in social media. You see, advertising used to be the domain of companies. Companies were the only ones that had the capital sufficient to advertise in newspapers or television or radio, whatever, and the individual really couldn't. So all of the rules at the FTC and all of the liability was pointed at the company, per se. But with the advent of the internet and the progress that it has made, and you know the YouTube clips, some of them getting thousands of hits a day, speak loudly about the power of the individual in today's world. And so rather than hold the company solely liable, the FTC now, through these guidelines, has been and will continue to hold you, the distributors, liable for certain things. And we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about testimonials per se and the new rules about results may vary. A common disclaimer that was effective was allowed prior to December 1st of 2009. The first thing we want to talk about as far as the FTC guidelines is what is it that brings us into the circle of liability? What is it that brings you into the circle of liability? It's called a material connection. And what that means really is, as an independent distributor, are you, when you make a statement on your blog or on a social media site, Facebook or other sites where you can make positive comments about product, are you acting solely and independently, or are you acting on behalf of the company or the advertiser or their agent? So that's the question. And fortunately or unfortunately, whatever your view might be, for us it's already been determined, and we'll cover that history briefly. To determine whether or not there is a sponsored comment or a material connection between you and the company, they look at various facts and circumstances. One of the things they look at is compensation. Are you being compensated for making the statement that you've made? Another fact is there an agreement in place, and what are the terms of that agreement? Next, ongoing relationship. Do you have an ongoing relationship with that company? Does it exist now, and will it exist into the future? Is it word-of-mouth marketing? Getting really close, isn't it? In fact, some people would describe our industry as the word-of-mouth industry. And last but not least, certainly, is have you received or do you expect to receive a gift from that advertiser / company? Now, to make it easy for us, they've used an example. And the example they have used is an example of a blogger who shops in a grocery store for dog food. Loves to do it, does it every week. One week she goes into the grocery store and notices that the brand that she buys is introducing a new high-end dog food. And she purchases it with her own money, and she writes a positive blog about the product. The question I ask you is that a material connection? No, it is not a material connection because she is using her own money. There's no connection between the company and the purchaser. Now, let's add this is like law school. Let's add another question. Suppose the grocery store is tracking some of their customers, particularly those that buy dog foods, and they notice that this customer buys this particular brand, and so the grocery store, on its own initiative, gives that shopper a coupon for free dog food. The shopper buys that dog food with that coupon and then writes the positive blog. Does that make a difference? Is there a material connection? No. Because again, there isn't a connection between the marketer, the LifeVantage, or its agent. It's a relationship between the independent grocery store and that individual. Now suppose that this individual is, and they use these exact words, is an MLM in the MLM marketing business. And she receives from her company some product, and she uses it, and she writes a blog positively about that product. Is there a material connection? What? Yes, there's a material connection, because there might be an agreement between the two. In fact, with us, there is an agreement. You sign an application. We have a contract between us. You're compensated for product that you purchase and product that people in your downlines purchase. So there is a material connection. So the advertisement is considered a sponsored advertisement. And it, most importantly, makes you liable for the things that you do and say in social media. Now, people say, but social media, I'm just an individual. There's no way I should be held liable like companies of old. And that's where if we downloaded a YouTube video and showed 50,000 hits, you know, some single YouTube videos get more hits in a day than major companies do, don't they? So the day of the individual and social media has brought in a day of liability for you. So what is that liability, and what does it mean? It means this, that with the FTC, and again, that's the FTC, not the FDA. This is different. The FTC says that you cannot make a false or unsubstantiated statement about that product. Now, false is easy to determine. It's an outright lie. It's not true. So you can't lie or tell an untruth. Unsubstantiated is a little different. What would unsubstantiated be? Any ideas? Yes. Well, you know, that's tricky. You've thrown a tricky one at us already. Why? Because unsubstantiated means that there isn't science behind it like we might have behind Protandim. Okay, we'll talk about that. What's that? Yeah, it makes you run faster. In fact, that is interesting because there are claims, and I see Dr. McCord here, there are claims made by distributors that are not necessarily substantiated by the science, like I sleep better. It may or may not, but I don't see specifically where one of the studies has addressed that. So is that substantiated or unsubstantiated? It's actually, I think, unsubstantiated, but we'd call it harmless in most cases. Nobody really cares whether you sleep better or you don't sleep better as long as it's not tied somehow to a disease. But it's an unsubstantiated claim, needless to say. So it isn't backed by science. Unsubstantiated means it's not backed by science. And this is the FTC now again, not the FDA, the FTC. An example is this. A company, and let's say it's LifeVantage. Let's say LifeVantage gets into an agreement with a blogging advertising company, and what they do is they line up companies with bloggers. And so we take our True Science moisturizing cream and we give it to that blogger. We're put in touch with that blogger. We give the blogger some cream and say, we want you to write a blog about this True Science moisturizing cream. Now, the blogger doesn't ask us, by the way, if there's any substantiation. And we don't necessarily give her any claims to state about the cream. But what she states in her blog after trying it is that this cream cures eczema. Can she say that? No. Why can't she say that? That's right. It's not substantiated. Who's in trouble here? Yeah, both are. The company is in trouble and the individual distributor is in trouble. The blogger here is in trouble. Why? Because she has made an unsubstantiated claim. Okay? And because we're tied to her, unless we take certain steps, we too are liable. Thus, the breakout session this afternoon. What am I talking about? The responsibilities of LifeVantage. Our responsibility is to provide guidance for you, and this is concerning the FTC, okay? This false and unsubstantiated stuff. So we need to provide guidance and we need to provide training to distributors on the FTC guide. We also need to monitor what it is you're saying, and we need to take appropriate actions. We need to do that because if you say something that is untruthful or unsubstantiated and we haven't done our part, both of us are liable. You're liable, we're liable. If we've done our part and we've done it sufficiently in the eyes of the FTC, they could hold you liable and not hold us liable at all. But we don't want anybody to be liable, do we? We don't want anybody to get into trouble. So keep everything truthful and make sure that you keep things substantiated. Now, there's one other thing that's important as we're talking about the FTC, and that is not only do you have to tell the truth, and not only does it have to be substantiated, but you have to disclose this connection with us, if there is one. What does that mean? You have to disclose on your blog or in your social media that you have a relationship with us. Yeah, that's why we insist that you put independent, LifeVantage independent distributor on what you do, on what you publish, on what you say, because that discloses the connection, which is one of the requirements that you have as you make these comments in the social media. And it protects you, it protects us, yes.
Liability ordinarily stems from either a breach of rules or harm or damage.
Yeah, and this is a breach of FTC rules. Yes, you can find it in the FTC. It's Title 16, Federal Code of Regulations, Title 16, Federal Code of, Section 255, 255.1 and 255.2, if you want to look that up. Yeah. Well, remember, the important thing is to do what you're going to do anyway, and that is tell the truth, have some backing for what you say, some substantiation, and disclose the connection that you have with us. It's that simple. Yes?
Is there a distinction between, using your example, that True Science cures eczema versus True Science cured my eczema?
Not necessarily. And let's go further and you'll understand what I mean by that. Yes?
It seems like we're talking about the product, but that also pertains to how we present the business from the opportunity standpoint. Those rules and regulations overlie that as well as far as the unsubstantiated claims.
Well, you never want to make any unsubstantiated claims no matter what, okay? But you're going into the FDA realm now, the income claims. And that's the domain of the FDA. Actually, no, that's the FTC too, income claims, that's right. And so income claims, again, they have to be substantiated and they have to be truthful. And right now what we're telling you to say is, and I'll get to that in a minute, okay? Let's move on and we'll cover these questions and then I'm sure we'll raise others. So one of the significant rules that we need to pull from the FTC guide is we share liability. We each have a responsibility to tell the truth, have substantiation, and you have an added responsibility of disclosing the connection. Now we get into an area that has been taken advantage of for years. The FTC has researched and researched and researched, and they've seen these ads where someone says, I lost 50 pounds, and then they saw results may vary down at the bottom. And they've said over and over and over again, what this does is this establishes a typical result that isn't undone, isn't properly explained by a disclosure or disclaimer, results may vary. So they've taken that safe harbor away. No longer are results may vary allowed. Those disclaimers are no longer profitable. Under the revised guidelines, advertisements that feature a consumer conveying his or her experience with a product or service as typical, when that is not the case, will be required to clearly disclose the results that consumers can generally expect. You can't say results may vary. If it's 15 pounds, you say, I lost 50 pounds, but you have to clearly and conspicuously, somewhere in that advertisement, somewhere in that statement, disclose that the typical person loses 15 pounds. And that fact needs what? Substantiation, that's right. So results may vary is no longer available. For instance, if a lady who is extremely obese, goes on a 6-month, very arduous regimen to lose weight. She takes a certain diet, she walks on a treadmill an hour every day, she watches everything else that she eats too, and she loses 50 pounds over 6 months. Does that fall under the FTC? Is that a typical result? No. That is a very unique result. And so if you can portray something as unique and not typical, where the typical consumer will say, I can do that too, then you're safe. But if your advertisement looks typical, and that's a before and after picture, lost 50 pounds, then you have to disclose what the actual figure is, and that figure has to be substantiated. Okay? Any questions on the FTC guides? We're going to move on. Yes? Yeah, again, if for the connection to take place, there has to be either a relationship between us, they have to have been compensated in some way for making that blog or making that statement, or they have to be given free product, etc. If they're in network marketing, there's a connection, okay? Just remember that. As independent distributors in this industry, you have a material connection with LifeVantage if you have signed a distributor application, or even if you're a preferred customer. Yes?
What's the fine or penalty for violation?
I imagine it would vary, depending on severity, depending on how long it's run, the damage that's been done. It would depend on the case-by-case basis. Other questions on the FTC? Yes?
What about like testimonials and stuff? Like, how are we able to use those?
Yeah, you can, and again, you can use testimonials, and that's what this talked about. It talked about endorsements or testimonials, and testimonials are considered endorsements. Okay, so again, you just remember that you have to tell the truth, you have to talk about something that's been substantiated, and you have to disclose the connection, because there's there's the material connection. And what was your question again? I got going and yeah.
Oh, just like I like to show some of my clients and friends like testimonials.
Yes.
And stuff like that, but I mean.
Yes, and so and testimonials, yeah, testimonials fall under the FTC, and testimonials can fall under the FDA. And that's what we're going to get into next, product and income claims. Now again, we're switching from the FTC over to the FDA. Both government entities, what we call regulators, and they watch our industry keenly. Our industry is, and LifeVantage is part of this rebuilding of image, but there has been a history way back when. And the DSA, for instance, is an industry association with a code of ethics. We are members of the DSA. We commit to abide by the DSA code of ethics. You'll find a copy of the DSA code of ethics at our website. You can go there and look on the bottom of our website, and of your replicating website, in the bottom left-hand corner, I believe, there's a logo of the DSA. If you click through on that, you'll go into the code of ethics for the DSA. And it's significant for them because it's significant for all of us to abide by these rules. Yes?
What's the difference between I lost 50 pounds and a testimonial?
Let's again get to there can or cannot be a difference in what you've just said. Okay, a testimonial is something that you've experienced, right? And why can't you say what you've experienced? Well, the FTC says you can, as long as you make it distinctive enough to where it appears to apply to only you. And they say, merely saying, I lost 50 pounds doesn't do it. If you say, I lost 50 pounds and you don't have any other explanation, you're in trouble, because there's no substantiation there. So that's with the FTC. The FDA now comes in and says, we're going to watch, the FTC is watching this, whether there's a connection, they're watching truth, and they're watching substantiation. What we're watching to see that you're honoring your commitment to be a dietary supplement as opposed to a drug. And that's a little bit of a dilemma in LifeVantage, more so than any other company I've been with. Why? Because there's substantiation. Yeah. And is it fun to listen to Dr. McCord? Oh, I'll tell you. The only thing better than to listen to him on stage is to have him trapped in a little restaurant while you're eating lunch. and ask him whatever question you want to ask him and have another 30 or 40 minutes for his reply. That is a treat, okay? So, yes?
Did I understand you to say that the preferred customer has the same responsibility as a distributor
As far as the FTC and the material connection, yes. What price does the preferred customer pay for the product? Wholesale price. That's it. Okay. So now we're on to the product claims of the FDA, and this is found in section 8.10 of your, where? What I'm referring to section 8.10, where? Nope. Policies and procedures. Say that again loudly. Policies and procedures. Where are they located? Library. They're located at the bottom of your replicated website. They're located at the bottom of our website. It says policies and procedures, and if you click there, you can go in and read to your heart's content. I wish you would. And in fact, I wish you would before you emailed me. Especially when all I do is respond to you, refer to section 8.10 in your policies and procedures, okay, where it says, no claims which include personal testimonials as to therapeutic, curative, or beneficial properties of any product offered by LifeVantage may be made except those contained in official LifeVantage materials. In particular, no independent distributor may make any claim that LifeVantage products are useful in the cure, treatment, diagnosis, mitigation, or prevention of any disease or sign or symptoms of disease. Not only are such claims violations of LifeVantage policies, but they potentially violate federal and state laws and regulations, including the Federal Food and Drug and Cosmetic Act and Federal Trade Commission Act. Okay? People ask me, you're not going to let me say this? And I respond, I would love to be able to say, go ahead and say it. It's not me. It's DSHEA. And what is DSHEA? DSHEA is the statute that refers to dietary supplements. DSHEA, D-S-H-E-A, Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act of 1994. DSHEA tells you you cannot make such claims. Why? Because we're letting you participate as a dietary supplement and not as a drug. So how is it that we allow Dr. McCord to stand up on stage and talk about the science of Protandim? Well, it is substantiated, but even the FDA allows for you to talk about science if you're talking about science in a context that isn't promoting the product. There's a difference. On our website, right now, you'll see promotion and you'll see scientific material. We're in the process of creating what we would call something near to a scientific library, where we can take all of our science and put it in the scientific library. Why? Because one of the requirements of the regulators when you talk about science of a product is to have it in a separate location, to have it in a separate and distinct location. So we need to take that science and we need to put it where we can talk about it to our heart's content. All 7 studies and more. All about oxidative stress and all of the, how many articles were there on oxidative stress? 83,000? 87,000. I was asleep through the last 4,000. So 87,000 articles. All of this can be talked about appropriately when it's talked about for its scientific significance. And DSHEA makes a safe harbor there. They allow for that when you do it in a separate location, when you're fair and balanced, where you include the entire document. That's why we ask you, if you're going to send and talk about the science to a doctor, provide them with the whole study. Provide them with a link or a completed copy of the whole study. Why? Because one of the requirements actually is to have it in full context. And it can't promote a certain product. So that's why we need to take that science, we need to put it over in a separate section in a scientific library. And then we can promote Protandim and life science on our website, and we can also provide space for you to go and research the science, our science and other science that supports oxidative stress and what's happening today. Yes?
Not a compliance question, but a suggestion. have all those full scientific studies.
Yeah.
How about a paragraph along there written by a scientist and it's talking to a 9-year-old?
That's not a bad idea. You mean for me? That's what I told marketing. I said, you're looking at the lowest common denominator right here. If I can understand it, anybody can understand it. Not a bad idea. We need to do, in fact, if we could get Dr. McCord to do it more and more. I've been around the block, folks. I have never met anyone that can take such complexities and make them so memorable, so simple. Isn't he wonderful that way? Yeah. Even I can walk away from convention with a better understanding of what happened at Ohio State. Okay? I don't understand the words yet, but I have a better understanding as to what happened in that study. So that's part of what we're doing, yes.
Do we have a listing of structure function claims?
You know what? Good question. First of all, in your back offices, you all have a document entitled To Say or Not to Say. That is the question. And we try to keep this up to date. It's a little out of date right now, but this is something that this is a document you need to review because it tells you, it has all the disclaimers in it. It talks about what you can say about true science. It talks about what you can say about protandem. Okay? It's a wonderful document in your back offices. We've talked about the policies and procedures and where they're at. And if you have any questions, in fact, you have questions about this presentation, I will send you a memo that I prepared for the executive staff on the FTC. If you're interested in that, send me an email, just compliance@lifevantage.com, and in the subject box put FTC memo. And then we'll know that that's what you're asking, and we won't even need to read the email. We'll just get the address and reply and attach a copy of the FTC memo. And it has a lot of examples and stories, yes.
Can we stay on the right side of that fine line by saying, instead of saying protandem cured my whatever, but to say I took protandem for 3 months. After that 3-month period, I no longer have this condition.
Okay.
Can you say that because there's a separation between saying actually the protandem?
I'm gonna give you the rule, and this is what I'll do and then when you send something in, we tweak it usually. The rule is this: you cannot state or imply. Let me repeat that: state or imply that our product cures, treats, prevents, mitigates a disease or a symptom of a disease. Can't do it. Now, wonderful things happen in people's lives with protandem. We know that. Wonderful things happen in the laboratories. We can certainly talk about the laboratories. In our personal experiences, if we have an intimate audience of people that we know, okay, then I think you can share what happens personally. Here's where you cross the line. Free speech ceases to be free speech when it becomes commercial speech. Commercial speech is regulated. Free speech is not. And whenever you're selling a product, it's commercial speech. Let me repeat that. Whenever you're selling a product, it is commercial speech. That's why when you're talking about the science, let's put it somewhere else. We can still use it. We can still talk about it. We can still, extend it. But we can't mix the two. That's what we're told. And so that's what we'll say is, DeShay says we can't. Why? Because we're not a drug. And right now we don't want to be a drug. We want to be a dietary supplement. Why? Dietary supplement, it actually, as you have begun to demonstrate, I think it offers it to more people in more places, faster. You want to get protandem around the world? Do it through MLM. It will grow like a weed, as you have seen. And we're a small weed. As good as we are now and as big as we are now, we're a small weed. But we can be a big flower. But we all need to be careful. We all need to watch what we're saying and doing. Now, I said to say or not to say, structure function claims permitted. Structure function claims are permitted when you're talking about a dietary supplement. And we're going to talk about true science in a minute. That's cosmetic. What's the difference between a cosmetic and a dietary supplement?
You don't eat it.
You cannot use structure function claims when you talk about cosmetics. So it's just reversed. One, you can use structure function. The other, you can't. Protandem, there's this one, and then I'm going to get another one, and I'll ask Joe, because I saw the emphasis yesterday. Joe was he was educating a lot of people. He was re-educating me on some things. We've had conversations where I know he gets so excited about certain things, and he says, if they would just say this. And what did he say yesterday that cried out that way? What did he say? Do you remember? What did he say that Protandum does that you could tell he has a passion for? In fact, I would suspect if you said you could only say one thing, this is what Dr. McCord would say you could say. Okay? Well, no, haven't heard it yet. It completely eliminates what? That's right. Is that right, Joe? Am I right? Is that something that is one of your favorites? That's right. What do you want to? It's the statement, and it's in the to say or not to say, and it talks about totally eliminates. On here, see if this is on. Will you see if I can mess with that power? That's where I've locked it in. Okay.
It completely eliminates the age-dependent increase in oxidative stress, keeping it at levels equivalent to a 20-year-old.
Okay. Completely eliminates. Read that part again. Okay. That's it right there. Protandum eliminates the age-dependent increase in oxidative stress. Number 37 in to say or not to say. As far as Protandum goes, and this is pre-Nerf 2. Now, I've put in my favorite. Why? I think if we said what we've just said about completely eliminating, and this one, Protandum has been clinically proven to reduce the levels of oxidative stress by an average of 40% in 30 days. If we only said those two things, we would be light years ahead of anyone else, right? I'm amazed at what people have to say just to be new and novel. This is powerful. Why not be powerful? This is sufficient. Now, we have NF2. As far as we know, Protandum is the first potent NF2 activator that is commercially available, and I think that is still true. I think that is still true. So that is safe to say. It's wonderful to say. And then you can talk a little bit about the Nerf 2 and draw circles.
Is it appropriate to say, use the term free radical damage as opposed to oxidative stress?
Yeah.
That's across the line?
The only thing that Protandum deals with oxidative stress. You can say anything you want to about Protandum and how it deals with oxidative stress as long as it's substantiated. Where we get into trouble is we go, and oxidative stress, as we know, deals with 100 or 200 diseases. That's kind of borderline, okay? It's when we use the word disease and then we want to get specific. That's where we get into trouble. It's where we cross that line, use the word disease, and start to get specific. In anything but a study or discussion about a study. Okay, so we have the science and we have the promotion and marketing. Yes? Well, this is, because this is an extra cautious, and you might say Protandum is the first potent, and we'll let you know when we don't think that's the case. Yeah. And the heads up for any of this is to watch what we do at marketing. I review everything at marketing. Let's do this, and then we'll summarize and ask questions. On true science, cosmetics, remember, you can't say structure and function. In fact, strictly speaking, you can't say anything. Really, you look at cosmetic law, it says if you say anything, you're in trouble. Really. So anything you say beyond that, you're taking some sort of risk. Well, we're taking calculated risks when we move into something other than covering it up. Now, this is a principle. This isn't a rule. This is a principle. When you're saying that true science does when you're saying that it does something besides covering something up, you've probably gone too far. Because they'll let you cover it up. Context implies eliminating. Can't do that. Hiding or reducing is okay. Hiding or reducing is okay. Those last two are the rules. Context, no, hiding or reducing is okay. But you can't eliminate, which we all want to do. We want to eliminate the lines and wrinkles. We don't want to reduce the appearance of lines and wrinkles. Okay? Now, we there have some substantiation too, right? But substantiation doesn't mean you can say it. Substantiation just means it's substantiated. That's with the FTC. The FDA says if you break the cosmetic law, then you're in trouble. And they've said if you say anything that isn't structure function, then you've crossed the line. But companies do it all the time. We do it marginally. We've established a marginal risk there in saying things that we think are safe to say. So again, our corporate resources are the first place you want to look. But we're not perfect. In other words, don't expect to submit something and say, I'm submitting this and I know it's perfect because I saw it in a brochure one time. No, sometimes we make a mistake or sometimes I'm skipped. Not out of, it just happens, okay? We have a process, we have deadlines, so sometimes people get going and they forget me. We've got a standard operating procedure in place now that should avoid that from now into the future. But just because it is in the marketing material doesn't mean it's safe. It just means it's a better place to look for a beginning. Yes, back to the back. Well, because there are some, and there are ingredients that are Nerf 2, okay? But nothing like Protandim. Nothing in combination as a product. And why is that significant? Dr. McCord explained that to us yesterday. Look at what you have when you have a single ingredient. First of all, it's only a single ingredient, and you might not be able to absorb it if you try to take it in greater amounts. But secondarily, it's an individual ingredient, and we know that through synergy, the process of synergy, we have a better product. Okay, so it's a better Nerf 2 product, a more potent Nerf 2 product that's available out there. Curcumin, for instance, I think is argued in some instances as a Nerf 2 activator. Okay? Right, right. Most potent, available today commercially. Yeah, yes, and it is patented. So our studies and our patents, people tell me, they call up sometimes or they email really worried. Oh, there's so-and-so, they're using our ingredients and they've got this product. First of all, if you really have reason to be afraid and they really are knocking off our product, we have something called a patent, and we have something called patent infringement law. And what we do is we sue them. If it's successful enough, then it's close enough. Then we just say stop, cease and desist. Because if you're successful, you're us. If you're not us, then you're not going to be as successful, right? End of story. Really. So don't worry if you hear somebody's got this newfangled dangled. Many times what people do in this industry is they will take one ingredient and they will find some substantiation scientifically for that one ingredient. They will add 3, 4, or a dozen other ingredients to that product, and they'll tout the product by that one ingredient. That is famous in this industry. We don't do that. Okay? Yes? That's a good question. We do have patents in the United States, and we do have patents in other countries, and we're applying for patents ongoing. So we have patents in the United States and in other countries, particularly the countries we're in or the countries we're going to go in. For instance, just kidding. Question? They can't go on eBay now and buy them for 20-something bucks. Okay, thank you for asking that. I've been actually, as a compliance person, when I was VP of Sales at Nikon some odd years ago, I was the VP of Compliance too. And we didn't have trouble with eBay back then. Why? There was no eBay, that's right. Now we have had problems with eBay. And if you look at eBay, go and look for some of our competitors' products. Massive participation at eBay. If you look at ours, you shouldn't find any more than 3 to 5 at any given time, and those are all brand new because the ones that were there last week are gone. We have found a way to, the problem we had before wasn't going to eBay and seeing what was there. We had problems identifying who the person was. We no longer have that problem. And so somebody called me on Monday and said, hey, there's this problem. And I said, no, there's some Pro Tandem and One True Science on eBay. But it's from today, because we know, because we took it all off last week. And we know what this is today, and we're getting it off. We've already taken steps, and in 48 hours it should be down. And that's what we've done on eBay, and we're now going on to Amazon.com and applying the same technology and other retail sites. That's our commitment to you. I've never seen it done as efficiently. I am just tickled with the effort. We have a small department. And we've had other departments help us. The finance department has helped us in one way to locate these people. But we have multiple ways. We have a small department, but we're on top of that because we know that it's important to you. Nobody should be able to go and buy Pro Tandem outside of the distributor base at LifeVantage. Yes.
Do we share any product liability with you?
Do you share any product liability with us?
If it turns out that Pro Tandem makes your eyeballs fall out, are we going to get sued?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, you have to understand we have liability insurance for us. So even if there is a problem, we're protected. Does that make you feel any better? Okay. It also covers the vendors. Okay? So we have product liability insurance for us and for you, and it is very sufficient. Now, that doesn't mean that you can play tricks with the product, take it out and repackage it and do whatever. Those things are always limited by, the original packaging, and so be careful and just be, use common sense, and you won't get into any problem that we all can't handle together. And by the way, I keep adverse events, and I was handed a list by the person that did it before me, and I keep the one now, and it's not a very long list. And most of it could be defined into some sort of an allergy. That's what most of the adverse events being reported are, allergies. Some people have a particular condition otherwise, but most of it is allergy. Okay? Yes?
The question came up last night, and the answer that I gave was in the transitional over to network marketing, the reason that we have protandem.com is to not leave anyone behind who wants the product. Can you address protandem.com?
Well, yeah, and more updated. Did you hear what he said? It's a question about protandem.com, essentially, why is it there? We've explained that we've had it there to protect our legacy customers, people that were using Protandem before we went into MLM. Well, basically what we use protandem.com for when anyone goes there to purchase is as a lead generation. Okay, they're put into, it creates an orphan account. We take those orphans and we distribute them fairly out to the leadership in the field, and then the leaders determine who gets them in their organization. So we, sometimes we can't, we take a little bit to decide exactly what to do, but that's what it's used for. And we have other ideas down the road where we'll do the same thing. We'll do something as a company to generate interest and have a simple one-stop place where people can go and get information and possibly order. But anytime we do anything like that, know this, that it's a lead generation program that we have, and we probably talk to your leaders and they're okay with it, and we're moving ahead just to put a single focused effort there to where we can distribute leads to you. I've been in a company that provided leads that way, and it was nice. It was nice to get 2 or 3 leads of people that have bought product coming your way. It's nice. Yes? Okay.
I have a question. I'm a dental hygienist, and I have some contacts in
Okay? No, you can contact anyone. You just can't talk about Protandem. A joke again. First of all, the first thing you need to do before you get serious about any international marketing is what? You have to go in and sign up get an international sponsoring agreement. You have to sign up as an international sponsor. That allows you to go into other markets, Japan, Mexico right now. You get an approval signed by me that says you have done the necessary paperwork, you can do business internationally now. Now, in markets that are not yet open, the policies and procedures in Section 9 explain that you really can't do anything beyond something you can do intimately. In other words, you can go to another country and you can talk to people that you know and people that they know in small meetings, usually under 10 people. So you can talk to people, you just can't do business there, essentially. You can get the word out, you can do things. In fact, before we made the announcement about Australia, we had people contact us 2 weeks ago. And they had a website that they'd created, and they were really excited. And I said, I'm sorry, you can't do that. You can only talk to people that you know. Because here's what happens, is these people come in and say, we know everybody. You know, I got a cousin, I've got a brother, I know the whole community. And we're going to go there, we're going to knock them dead. And then first thing they want to do is create a website to mass market. We're saying, now wait a minute, if you know everybody, why do you need to create a website? We thought you knew people. So it's very intimate. You can do it. People that you know and people that they know, 10 or under. Otherwise, you have to wait for the market to open. Does that help? Now, we had some people here that have some ideas and contacts in another country, and this answered part of their question too. Now, and we're not trying to poo-poo your contacts in other countries and legitimate business growth opportunities. If you have someone, let us know. We'll talk to you about it. We won't promise you we'll be there next month, but we'll promise you we'll talk to you about it. We'll promise you that we'll keep your information there. And as we near going to that market, we'll let you know. Okay? Other questions? Over here, and then we'll come back here. Yes? Yes. Yeah, good question, and here's the general answer. When you have any ideas like this is a great idea. She wants to custom make a website. Okay, people want to do advertisements. They want to put advertisements on their cars, on their houses, on their children. Just kidding. Any ideas like that, just contact us. We're going to ask you to submit something specifically so that we can legitimately review it, and then we'll either approve it or not, and if we don't, we typically work with you on what you need to do to make it compliant. One or two more questions, then we're out of time. Yes, back here and then back there.
Yes, will the same policies and regulations apply to the Commonwealth Island of Puerto Rico? And the language barrier might be my main concern.
Yeah, that's a good question. Isn't Puerto Rico part of the United States, actually? I think it is. But you need to email me about that, just to make sure. Yes?
Yes, I run a wellness company, fitness, nutrition, and of course, Protandem is a big part of that. We quite often get asked if we can do a radio ad or sponsorship on our wellness program. But if I talk about Nerve 2 activation, which I do talk a lot about, after meetings, people ask me, what do you use? They'll say, probiotic, Nerve 2 activator, fitness. All of that is very comprehensive. But they ask me about Protandem after a meeting, can I talk to them specifically about it, even though I've just given a wellness presentation to 40 people?
Sure. I mean, you can talk to...
What about radio?
Well, yeah. Anytime you deal with the media, though, if you're going to do something concerted, if you're going to do something, a focused effort, a repeated effort, you need to contact us and work through us. So people submit scripts to us all the time, for TV, for radio, whatever. And we approve those scripts before they go on. How much time were we about out? Okay. I want to thank you all for being here. okay? This is very likely the most significant thing that we need to learn about in the growth of our business. Why? Because this is an area that if we slip up, you slip up, now you know that you can be in as much trouble as we are, and none of us want to be in trouble. Why? Because we have a wonderful product and we need to protect it and be smart. Thank you very much. You can email me. I'll respond.
Thanks, you guys. Let's make sure we head straight out of here. We have our next presentation.